to be parents several years down the road. Some of you could be parents or grandparents, and you might recall the times when you were badly yearning for your child to sleep through the night, just so that you too can have a good night's sleep. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Geraldine. When I'm not teaching biology in the classroom, I dedicate a portion of my time to help parents in Singapore understand how sleep works and how to help their children sleep better. I'm the founder of a parenting support group on Facebook, Sleeping Like an SG Baby. Two questions I raised in the outreach video before today's event. What are the factors that allows us to sleep well in the night? And what are those that cause us to sleep poorly? If you have the answers to both questions, you're one step closer to understanding how sleep works in young children. Now, to prevent another generation of sleep-deprived families, I will also share with you the science and math that allows children to sleep well. 6.5 years ago, I was spending most of my time assisting my firstborn to sleep. Can you imagine being woken up every hour in the night just to spend another hour to assist a crying child back to sleep? That could be you if you're not paying attention to my sharing. Besides being very sleep deprived, I was frustrated and desperate for answers. Seeking advice from experienced parents sounds like the right thing to do, isn't it? And that's what exactly I did. I approached a mother of 5, and her reply was, "Sleep is a mystery, Geraldine. I have 5 kids. Nothing worked. Take it easy. They will all sleep through the night around 5 years old." 5 years old? How can children survive 5 years of sleep deprivation and grow up fine? We all know that sleep is very important in the early years for brain development, especially in the prefrontal cortex. More importantly, how can I survive 5 years of sleep deprivation and go to the classroom happy and energized? Everyone that I turned to gave me a different set of answers. Keep bedtime at 7 p.m. Ensure your child is awake for X amount of hours before bedtime. Ignore your child's night wakings and it will all go away. By the way, this is terrible advice. Now, when I look up the internet, it was a tumble down a rabbit hole with more questions, but no solutions. But at least one answer was consistent. If your child is reliant on an ineffective sleep routine like rocking, carrying, and nursing to sleep, your child will wake at the end of the sleep cycle. Make that every hour or two because the brain registers the last memory before we fall asleep. This memory must be replicated throughout the night so that the primitive feature of the brain doesn't cause us to wake in the fight or flight mode. After resolving the sleep routine issue and my child was finally able to fall asleep on his own at 4 months old, he was still experiencing night wakings from time to time. Those loud cries in the middle of the night drowned me in mother's guilt. One morning, when my child was taking his nap, a thought struck me. How can a medical science concept like sleep have no solutions? How can I make night wakings go away? Armed with years in training in molecular biology, I look up medical science journals, pediatric sleep books, and luck has it that I stumbled upon the one and only parenting forum that provided a crucial piece of the puzzle. Who knew that sleep was controlled by something so simple? Well, if we are not asleep, what are we doing? We are awake, isn't it? The length of time we are awake in a day builds up sleep pressure, and this concept is known as total wake time. Essentially, in children and adults, we can only stay awake for X amount of time before we become too tired, in a term called overtiredness, where excess production of the stress hormone, cortisol, sabotages our sleep. As our children grow older, they develop a greater tolerance to their total wake time. Now, just look at yourself. Most of you should be 16 to 18 years old, and you need between 8 to 9 hours of sleep. Subtracting 8 to 9 hours from 24 hours, give or take 30 minutes of winding down, you would be able to stay awake comfortably for about 14.5 to 15.5 hours. But of course, many of you don't abide by this guideline. Connecting the dots to advice given by pediatric sleep doctors who urge parents to keep sleep diaries for their children, I tracked how long my child was awake between sleep phases and throughout the day with the aid of a baby monitor. This wasn't a difficult task for my husband and I, who were previously zookeepers at the night safari. Observing animals was the core nature of our job. Now that we have a baby, what's better than to put our skills into place? Back in 2016, there were many clueless parents who knew nothing about sleep. Every advice dished out in parenting forums had no or little grounding in science. It was near impossible to help parents make sense of how sleep works. Parents had courses to teach them about breastfeeding, how to care for a newborn, how to parent respectfully, but there were none to teach us how sleep works in young children. Seeing the frustration of how parents were not given the right understanding of sleep, a friend of mine decided that, hey, we can do something about this. We had one goal, and that's to start a paradigm shift in using science and math to troubleshoot sleep issues with the concept of total wake time. The journey in setting up a non-profit parenting support group isn't exactly the most pleasant. It was tiring, laborious, and emotionally draining. Making an impact to the community isn't that straightforward, especially when you are dealing with pseudoscience and sleep-deprived parents who have a harder time with analytical and critical thinking. There were two roadblocks, to overcoming this journey. Firstly, we had parents from the parenting groups, such as the breastfeeding parenting groups and attachment parenting groups, that work on an all for all and all for one principle. They are strong believers that breastfed babies aren't allowed to sleep through the night to preserve the breastfeeding relationship, and only lucky babies get to sleep well. So if your child's not sleeping well, there's nothing wrong because theirs aren't sleeping well too. Science and parenting philosophy are actually mutually exclusive. Yet it is not surprising that people can ignore science or be selective in what they believe in. Speaking kindly and objectively to such parents is very challenging. I must admit that I wasn't kind all the time, and this is something that I realized is crucial to start effective science communication. Secondly, to make a paradigm shift and to gain support, we needed ground data, a lot of data, I must say. Within the first year, our group grew exponentially as it was a safe place for parents who needed solutions to replace unsustainable and ineffective sleep routine. It took us another year or so to put up a system in place for people to know how to work their way around sleep issues. In the first 3 years, there were tons of hits and misses, many anxious parents, and also an exhausted and depressed Geraldine whom everyone was seeking help from. Back then, we did not know that parents may not be completely honest with you on their children's sleep issue. Things like they might also suffer from medical disorders such as mouth breathing, sleep apnea, and even deficiency in nutrients like magnesium and iron. And these are things that can make it difficult to optimize sleep in children. In addition, we were focusing a lot on overtiredness, where parents keep their children awake longer than they should. But I failed to realize there's the other side of the tiredness curve, under-tiredness, where parents are keeping their children awake too short in the day. As a result, their children lack sleep pressure and are unable to sleep well in the night. To overcome this roadblock, we got parents to do a large-scale citizen science project over the course of 3 years. They will observe how their children sleep and feed us the data, and we'll analyze it and break it down for them. Moving forward, with tens of thousands of data and more experience in resolving sleep issues, our group has grown to over 25,000 parents. Our resources and support have reached parents in Australia, Malaysia, China, Brunei, USA, and the United Kingdom. Seeing how this science project has turned out to be something useful for the community, a question that we can keep in our minds: how can we use science to advocate for a cause or mindset change? Now, never underestimate how much impact you can do to the local community and beyond. Nothing is too little. In my journey, I'm certain that with science backing me, there's nothing I shall fear. The biggest hurdle in pushing for a paradigm shift in a large community is science communication. While it's crucial that your message must be understood by even a 5-year-old, education doesn't guarantee learning in adults. Cognitive biases, sleep deprivation effects, and die-hard personal conviction can change how one thinks. Going solo against the current will not effect change, and that can set you back by miles. Rather, working with others to gain trust and support from the community is very, very important. As you venture into similar projects in future, I'd like you guys to be mindful of burnout. Parents I've encountered are mostly kind and appreciative, but there will always be mean and demanding people. Back in 2019, I had a parent who told me that if I'm unable to help her child to sleep well, she would end her life. Now, never did she know that I too was struggling with depression and anxiety. Making an impact to the Singapore community is meaningful, but it can come at a cost. Here's my adventure on how you can use citizen science to drive a paradigm shift in solving sleep issues in children. I look forward to hearing from yours. Thank you.